rock star extraordinaire. That's what I had. I looked at the glove, that power glove, and I was just thinking, you know what, she'd be on a stage singing a song, and I could totally believe that.
Well, I have taken voice lessons and piano lessons and guitar.
Really? Cool.
Yes, yes.
We'll talk about that. Let's switch what we were talking about, and then we'll get into that because that sounds really fun.
All right.
No, like we're at a point in life where we gotta just talk. We don't need to insult each other. I mean, we can fundamentally disagree. That's totally fine. That freedom to fundamentally disagree, though, is important.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
As I sip my coffee like a gentleman. Now that all said, I get the feeling we're not going to be on this topic for too long because there's much better things to talk about. But basically, we were talking about not giving a shit. I'll talk about absolutely anything because I don't give a shit, right? Because I'm too old for that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I said shit a lot in the last little line there.
I mean, you know, the more you worry about other people having an opinion about you, the less time you're spending on better things that you could be doing with your time.
Which is just about anything.
Yeah. Like, you know, why would I want to sit around staring at my navel and being like, why am I not perfect? Why am I not like the person that everybody thinks I should be? And like, you know, just focus on writing my damn stories. Like, you know,
but
I mean, that's what fun.
But you are perfect. You're Charleigh Brennan. You're a rock star extraordinaire. I mean, really, what else do you need to be?
You know, best thing to be is just to be yourself.
Exactly.
You know?
You just get to a certain point and it's just like, this pretending to be something I'm not is too much like work.
Right.
Just too much like work.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, I don't understand how people manage it. I just don't. It seems like such a I don't know. Like, why would you want to spend your whole life trying to be something that you're not when you could be much happier just being yourself?
I think there's that like comfort zone, right? Of, okay, I'm going to be this person and I'm going to like do this because this is what everybody expects me to be.
Right.
Right. And what does everybody expect me to be? Right. And well, you realize you realize that how do I put this? That this facade you have is literally this imaginary thing is literally imaginary. I think there's just like that eureka moment where it's like, this is complete and utter dog shit. What the fuck was I thinking? sometimes it's like, yeah, what was I thinking? Right?
Right. Yeah. I lucked out growing up. I was always a good student, but my mom, who's a preschool teacher, always said she doesn't care. She never cared what grades I got. She did not care at all. All she cared is that I got something from what I was learning. And I think because of that, I did better in school because I didn't feel like I had to live up to an unfair expectation.
Yeah.
The only expectation was that I learned something, and that's it.
I wish I was that smart when I was younger. I wish I was that smart. Because when I started, like, I was a straight A student. Like I was like I could do it in my sleep. In terms of the ability to do it, I always had the ability to be a straight A student, but I never had the discipline to be a straight A student, and that took again. So the discipline came older, but younger me was like, oh my god, I can't do this. Like, what the hell am I doing? Where is this going? And no man, like you gotta realize at some point that, okay, this perfect model, this pressure to get to this perfect place. That's the other thing too. I didn't really have like, I don't have like this big PhD, doctorate, masters at some. I don't care. And that may sound like no. I do think education's valuable. I love learning, but the piece of paper really doesn't mean a damn to me.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm saying that as somebody with a master's, it doesn't, because what matters is your quality as a person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what matters is that You are, putting yourself in the world, getting something from the world, giving something to the world. And that's it, really. So,
Well, yeah, like at the end of the day, you gotta look at it like, how do I put this? You gotta look at it from the point of view that, are you gonna be happy with what you see looking in the mirror? That's it. There's nothing else to this life, really. It doesn't matter what it looks like.
Yeah.
It really doesn't, right? So let's not pretend that it does look like something, and and then go from there.
Yeah.
And
it's all just a measurement based on standards, based on somebody who decided this is what it means to be smart. And it's, and we kind of bought into it, and it's like, well, maybe there's more to it than just that.
I think what happens is most of us are completely clueless about what we're supposed to do in this life. I think that's what it comes right down to. We're completely fucking clueless. So the very first thing we're supposed to do, I think this is where, like they say, youth is wasted on the young. And this is where it comes in, because we spend most of our young life going like, okay, what am I supposed to do? Well, what did my parents do? And they did this, and this. And you're like, okay, they did it. It worked out great for them. Kind of, sort of, right. So, right now that's it. So you do that. So these standards come out. Well, you got nothing else to go by, really. Like you don't know what that's going to look like, be like, go like from there. So you do the only rational thing you know how to do, and that's, do those things that everybody else did.
Yep. Follow the example that was set before you, and because it's easy.
And you do this sometimes for a very, very, very long time. And then one day you wake up and you realize, I went this way. What about this way? And this way? Why until now has it never occurred to me that I could have gone any way but this way?
Right.
And I think we all have that eureka moment. And then you're like, I don't actually need to be anything people told me what to be.
Right.
I can be anything I want to be.
Yeah. Right. I mean, like, guiding this a little bit into writing, look at Stephen King. He was a janitor before he started writing. And a lot of authors out there, they don't start writing like right after they get like some fancy degree in literature from school. I mean, some do, but people who don't, I would say probably most authors don't start that way. When I was a little girl, the first job I ever wanted to have was to be an author, but I didn't know what to do with that. Right. And, I went on, I had all kinds of other things I wanted to be. And I got my graduate degree in clinical psychology and worked in that and tried a few things. And the reality is life is about trying things. You don't have to stick to one thing. I do not feel bad that I'm not doing counseling right now. And but I also feel really good about the counseling I've done.
I feel like I should be giving you something tells me like there's a hug there that, like, if I could give you a hug, this would be the moment to give you a hug.
Right? I am the hug person.
Yeah, because that sounds like that was an experience for sure, right? And so did you go like to get your master's for counseling, like psychology kind of deal?
Yeah, master's in clinical psychology, and I worked mostly with children who are survivors of trauma and abuse. And it was really meaningful. And I really valued that work. And I know I'm good at it. But the way how all the structure, the way how things are set up for counselors to become counselors, it's kind of twisted. I mean, in a way, like here you are, you're supposed to go in and teach people how important it is to do self-care. but the career field itself is not good at helping the counselors to do self-care. For example, I'm from California originally, and I was doing my internships in California, and it's very difficult to find a paid internship. And you have to do internships for about 3 years in order to get your license. So if you're expected to provide free counseling and not get paid for 3 years and then get your license, there's something wrong about that, because how is somebody supposed to take care of themselves if they don't have an income? You know? So it's kind of twisted, kind of messed up, and a lot of what it is a lot of people out there who really care about helping others who are being weeded out just because they don't have the finances to support themselves for 3 years.
It's interesting because how do I put this? A couple things. Like, first off, like any kind of counseling takes a mental toll, because you are, it's an empathy, it's an empathy field. You are like this. If I wanted to turn this into a psychology session, right, it wouldn't be hard for me to do. I'm doing most of what that actually is already. We're having a conversation. I'm figuring out things about you. Like, like already I'm figuring out, like, you're awesome. You're very accomplished. You're talented. And I figured all this stuff out. Now we're kind of exploring the hows and the whys right now. Right. So that's not that different than what you did. Now, the difference is, right, when this is over, you're going to be like, well, thank you very much. This is my book. Please buy it. Which, when you go to a psychology thing, you're not going to, like, I would think it would be very awkward to go to your psychologist. Oh, by the way, this is my book. Please buy it. Or if you're a counselor, it feels like a conflict of interest. Although, again, just based on what you just told me, maybe you got to make ends meet somehow. I don't. Hey, listen, I don't judge anybody for how to make ends meet at all. Yeah. So, but the issue is, the way I see it anyway, is we have this. I think there are a lot of people that genuinely want to serve, and you can literally see. Like, I think I met somebody. When I was in the I made the unfortunate mistake of whereabouts in California are you?
Well, I'm originally from San Francisco. I live in Vermont now.
Okay. No, gotcha. So, do you know the Greyhound bus station in LA?
I think so. Yeah.
You don't go there. I found that out the hard way.
Right.
I was just, I thought it'd be kind of cool, right? Go from, because I was flying. I had a choice of Denver or LA for like a layover, and LA always sounds like the more glamorous city. I've learned the hard way that isn't always the case. If I ever get a chance in Denver,
I went to college for a semester in LA, and
it's not for everybody. I mean, for people that like LA, or any listeners from LA, I don't hate your city much. I say that because my visiting experience, and I should say this, my experience there was not for me. LA's for other people besides myself, and I can respect that. Right. The reason I bring all that up like this is, how do I put this? It's like, so I met that person in the National Guard. He was the coolest, chillest, gentlest dude. He looked out for me, and like, I remember this. It's almost like I had a guardian angel there. Right? He was going to Fort Worth. We were just in the Greyhound, just chatting, man. That's what we were doing. And cool dude. Like, I came out of that. Like, everybody has this idea of what an Army person is like. Then you meet somebody that they are some of the nicest, sweetest people you'll ever meet. Almost all of them want to serve. Now, that doesn't say there aren't assholes in the military. There are, but for the most part, they're going because they want to serve. They're not going because it's the glamour job. They just want to serve.
Right.
What I have noticed about the United States in particular is it takes advantage of that mentality, of that I want to serve others mentality. Yes, we want you to serve us forever. And it's like, you almost, like, the United States taught me how to be an asshole. I am not kidding. I was a Canadian. I was a nice guy. I didn't learn how to say no until I lived in Arizona. then I learned how to say no, because it was the only way you're going to survive there. That's
Right.
it, right? There's no answers, no answers and buts. You don't survive any other way,
Right.
right?
I feel that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
as a kid growing up, like, I didn't go into studying counseling because, oh, psychology is interesting. I went into it because I was always that really quiet kid that everybody told their problems to. And because I was always that quiet kid who was a good listener, and I always knew how to help people and help them feel better, help them figure out their problems. That's always been in me. Like, you can't really teach that. You can teach like all this theoretical stuff. But like, one of the things I was told in psychology grad school is that everything you learn in grad school, it only accounts for 5% of what it takes to be a counselor. The other 95% is who you are and how you deal with people. So anything to do with, learning that kind of stuff, and it all boils down to who you are. And if you're the kind of person who is willing to give up a little bit of yourself to help other people, and you have to figure out how much of that bit of yourself you're willing to give in order to do it, and you have to take care of yourself. You have to know how to say no. You have to know how to create a boundary, because people will walk all over you, and you can't stop them unless you say no.
Mm-hmm.
You can't stop them until you show them that you aren't going to take it.
Yep.
And some people, it takes a lot to show them that. Like, most people, you say no and they'll be like, oh, that sucks, but okay. But there's always those people who are just going to keep pushing you and pushing you and pushing you and pushing you until you scream,
It's a really fine line, because so I'm a freelancer. Saying no is also a big part of being a freelancer, because I've had to fire people, and I've had to fire. I've been fired too. I mean, it's not like it's a one-way street. Sometimes I'm the culprit and I'm the fuck up. Sometimes I go to my clients like, this isn't gonna end well.
Right.
I need to fail, right? And that sounds terrible until you realize that no, I'm doing it because you have to love what you do in order to do it the best way you possibly can. Right? So
I can tell you, when I was doing counseling with kids, there are times when I came home and I saw my nice place that I lived, and I knew I was safe, and I knew that I was leaving behind a kid someplace else where they were unsafe. And I cried. How can you not cry when you think you are so fortunate to have a safe place to be and somebody else doesn't?
It's a little worse than that too, because it's the helplessness.
Right.
Because somebody is in a situation that you cannot help them get out of.
Right.
You just can't, for whatever reason. Maybe it's a legal reason, maybe it's you don't know where they are, but you just know that this person is going through some kind of hell that's not there. And it sucks. And that might be the hardest thing about being any kind of healer counselor. You deal with people's pain. And when you deal with people's pain, it's like you learn to empathize with, and you can empathize with anyone. You learn how to do that. And the problem is sometimes it really gets to you, because it just you see it and you know what's going on, and it's terrible, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it, and it blows.
And sometimes you just end up feeling like a fraud. Like, am I doing enough? Am I actually good at this? And it's like, you can be the best counselor in the world and still feel like you aren't doing enough, because there's only so much you can do. You can't change an entire person's situation overnight and fix everything. That's impossible. But you can be somebody who helps them. And that's the most important thing. You don't have to do everything. You just have to do something.
That's the other part of it. Like, I think the other, like being a counselor in particular,
Mm-hmm.
It's true with the doctor too, to some degree, because even with the doctor, like, I can come at you with a remedy. Let's say you had a heart problem. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I can come to you with this drug that I know works 110%.
Mm-hmm.
You won't want to take it. Sometimes you'll have a valid reason. Like maybe you have a bad reaction to this drug.
Right.
So I can't use. So it's like, okay, I got to find something else. No problem. But sometimes this is literally the best thing I can give you. I have alternatives, but they suck compared to this. No, I want the alternatives. And you got to be like, okay, there's nothing else you can do. Because if you try to force someone to take something they don't want, it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, doctor's an easier example to show that, because it's like, well, either you take the medicine or you don't. Counselor is doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Doctor, I think probably the biggest secret about healing that a lot of people don't realize, it's that willingness to heal. That is probably the biggest key to healing, right? And your job when you were a counselor was get someone to that state where they want to heal. Now maybe that kid is going through hell, right? Maybe that kid's going through hell.
Right.
But that would mean too, that now again, depending on the situation, no, I'm not asking questions because I'm not ever going to ask that. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that parents are getting divorced. We'll keep it PG, not something really terrible. Parents going through divorce, going through a divorce. Well, kids got to ride that out. There's not much unless there's something really terrible going on.
Right.
Right. There's really it's just the kid's in the wrong place at the wrong time. And it will eventually get better, right? Unless it gets something really terrible. Now, if it's really, really terrible, the bad part is, unless the kid says something, really, really says something, because you can know that something terrible is going on, but you can't actually know,
right,
until something's said.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's interesting too, because one of the things I was also taught is if the counselor is doing more work than the counseling client, then they're not doing their job correctly. The client's the one who needs to be doing most of the work. So the counselor's job is to find out what works for the client, work with that client on figuring those things out, and help them to better integrate those things into their lives that can become tools that they use to cope the next time they're confronted with a difficult situation. So like in your example, kid from a family that's getting divorced, you find out, so what is going on? You can't do anything about the parents.
No.
The parents are going to be who they are, and how they handle the divorce is up to the parents, but what you can do with the kid is remind them and work with them to help them understand that no matter what their parents do, they are still worthy of love, that they are valid, and that their fears matter, and their hopes for what will happen next matter. And that's where you start. Like, you really just start from this place of validity, everything they're going through, everything they're feeling. It's not something to be ignored. Whether they might be happy in some ways that their parents are divorcing, because then maybe they don't have to hear their parents arguing anymore. That's a positive thing. And there could be some guilt around that. But, the job is to unweave the guilt from the positivity and help them find those little things that help them to understand that this is going to be okay, and help them find the things they can control, which is mostly how they feel.
So I think the key on that one, like that particular example, because I remember my parents, I usually feel like my own example. The hardest thing it took me to get over with, because every kid has this stupid belief, and it is a silly belief, but it's a belief we all have. Maybe there was something we could do, right? And the hardest part about that particular thing is coming to terms with the fact that it really doesn't have anything to do with you, right? The reality of the situation is you're just like, no matter what going on, your mom and your dad have to figure this out on their own. And if they can't, it has nothing to do with, and no matter how much you tell a kid that, even if you're the parents, it takes a while for that to sink in. Right?
Yeah.
That it does take a while for that to actually sink in.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of be very patient about that.
Absolutely.
It took me about a year to figure
Yeah.
that out. Right.
Yeah.
Right. But it takes. I was 8. Like like it was just like one of those like things where you just. But again, even at a young age, you can carry things that you shouldn't be carrying, and right. And that's the big thing there, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, right. Like so. That's different, but again, even in that situation, I have to come to terms with that myself.
Right.
I have to realize this myself. And you can help me. You can kind of lead me to that conclusion.
Right.
And if it's the right,
it's the difference between telling someone and helping them see it for themselves.
Yeah, there's a huge difference.
Because it's never gonna mean enough if you just tell someone, oh, don't worry, you're a good kid. Your parents are getting divorced. You're a good kid. It's not your fault.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to, that doesn't teach a kid to internalize the idea that they're a good kid and it's not their fault. You have to kind of guide them into understanding taking all the little pieces and saying, well, is it really a bad thing to feel this way? I mean, these are your feelings, they're valid. These are your thoughts. They're valid. Like you feel this way. You feel sad, guilty, angry, relieved, whatever. Those are all valid things. So instead of telling somebody, no, you shouldn't feel that way, it's about telling people those feelings actually have meaning and you're feeling those things for a reason. They're like, if we go for like a medical thing, let's say you get the common cold, you're having, sniffles, you have a sore throat, whatever. There's a reason you're having that experience. It's because you are going through this thing and your body is trying to fight it off so that you will get over it and you will survive at the end. So feelings are like that too. They are things, they are symptoms of a problem that's going on. And there's a reason you have those symptoms. And so you have to work with the symptoms you have in order to recover from this experience you're going through. So it's all valid.
Yeah, and like I said, when you look at life, I this is the thing. This is how, actually you just gave me a wonderful realization. Let's see if you agree with me. It doesn't matter what if I'm working on bettering myself, mm-hmm. I'm the one putting the most work in, no matter who's helping me.
Right.
The moment I'm relying on somebody else to do that work for me, I'm in an unhealthy place.
Yeah. Absolutely. And a lot of times people go to therapy and they'll just keep on going to therapy even though they've learned the tools that they need because they're afraid to go without therapy. And the point of therapy should be much like any other kind of treatment, is you want to get the person to a point where they don't need your help as much anymore, because they should be able to eventually do those things on their own without somebody to help them. There's an educational component there too. Like I want to make sure somebody has the tools so the next time they go through a similar situation, they aren't going to keep taking the same path every time. They know that there's another path that they can take, and they can try that out and see if that works better for them. And maybe it doesn't. So maybe they do need to go back to therapy for a little bit, but then you help them find another path, and it's really about just finding the right path, rather than keeping somebody, going to therapy for years and years and years and years when they probably maybe didn't need it that much. You don't want somebody to be so reliant on you that they can't rely on themselves.
Yeah, that's the thing. And when you get to that point, that person needs to go. Needs to relearn how to do that all over again. However that works out. No, I'm about to do that myself. Actually, I've been during the pandemic, I've been I was cool. I had a place to kind of go and stay and allow me to try the freelancer thing out. And I think I by and large figured it out. Well, fingers crossed. It took a while, but it's time for me to go on my own again because, well, but where I kind of want to be for the next few years in light of, I think things are going to be crazy no matter where you are. But so you just like, where do you want to be during this crazy time? So I know where I want to be during this crazy time, and I'm going to go there, and I'm going to do my thing, and I'm going to, make zillions and zillions of dollars and figure out why I'm an awesome writer and made of cheese, or I'm going to go down trying, right? Right. And because that's what I want to do. I'm too old to, I'm too old to give a shit, right? I mean, this goes almost full circle in that sense because it's like, I can fail 1,000 different ways, 1,000 different times. Let's create something and do something and be memorable and awesome and all that wonderful stuff. And because I'll be a lot happier doing that than doing a real job. So that's right. So I might as well just do the stuff that makes me happy because again, I got one life to live. And yeah, I mean, if it's not making me happy, not making me rich, or giving me an orgasm, I don't care.
I mean, there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, with everything that's been going on for the past year and a half, I've struggled quite a lot. And I think that's something I would love to remind people. Therapists are just as messed up as everybody else.
You're the worst patients, actually. You're the worst.
But it's part of what makes therapists better at being therapists.
Mm-hmm.
If you are perfect, how can you understand somebody who is imperfect? There's just no way. So I have all kinds of imperfections of my own. And for example, around March, I was really just starting to get in a really bad place. I felt really stuck and it was really hard. And I ended up getting a new job. I loved the job I had before everything started, but they just couldn't hire me back because I worked at a resort and nobody's going to resorts.
Yeah.
So I got a new job and I work in a doctor's office as a receptionist. And it may not have been the job I wanted, but I needed that job. And it wasn't about money. I needed to do something where I felt good about what I was doing, and I needed to be around people in some form because I was getting stuck in a loop. I was getting stuck in this internal loop, and I'm kind of an introvert. I don't need to be around people all the time, but even so, I like people. I actually like people. I don't like people in hordes, but I like individual people because they're interesting.
Yeah.
And it gets me from thinking about myself all the time.
Well, it's why I do this podcast. I get to talk to interesting people from all over the world, and it's always fun. You learn something, right? So, right. And so that's the. But here's the thing. Of course, you care. You wouldn't have been a counselor if you didn't care.
Absolutely.
And people will be fascinating to you because you're trying to understand yourself. And to understand yourself, you learn. You feed off other people. You have something to compare to.
Right.
So, like me, for example, you're talking. It's like, well, this guy is pretty open and doesn't give a fuck. We talked about anything. That's cool. I don't know if I'd be as open as he would be, but at the same time, it works for him, and that's cool. All right, right. And that's pretty much it, right? And vice versa. You're quiet, you're shy, you got a lot going on up here. I can actually almost see the gears turning, right, as we go here. And you're quietly, you're a very analytical person. You tend to look at people. You try to figure out how they work, what makes them tick, and how they work, because you're trying to understand yourself as much as you're trying to understand that person. And to do that, it's like, well, what do I like here? What can I learn from here? What can I take from here? Where do I think he's crazy? So I don't do that. But there are things he does really, really, really well. So let's go with that. And you learn.
Right.
And some of what you learn from me will, and vice versa, some of that will be like, not for me.
Right.
Right? Some of that will be like, that's kind of cool, but I'm not sure I like it. And then some of it's going to be like, okay, that's cool. I like that. I'm better for this.
Right.
Right. And that's that might be like, that may not be quite your approach, but that's my approach. Every person has something to teach me. Every person, right? Every person has something to teach me, right? So,
and also one of the things too is that, you know, like we may be two different people and I may see qualities in you that I don't have, but I can also appreciate that maybe that's a quality that doesn't work for me, but it works for you and it's a great quality for you.
mm-hmm.
So I'm going to appreciate it because it is part of what makes you an interesting person, a valuable person, you know? It doesn't matter that I don't have that quality because there are people out there that do, and it's a valuable quality.
So let's put it another way. Okay, we have talked for 35 minutes. I don't know how much longer we're going to talk. I'm hoping for a little while longer yet, but we're eventually going to wrap this up at some point.
Yes.
Right? At some point, this time will pass.
Mm-hmm.
So I can look at this one in two ways. I have this wonderful opportunity to meet somebody who I can learn from. Like, so we haven't got to your piano singing voice yet, which we got to get to before we all wrap up. But and I can tell you're like, ooh, he wants to know about my music. This is gonna be kind of cool, right? So I'm curious if you've got an album and stuff like that. But here's the thing, right? I can treat this time like it's, oh my God, it's just another interview. What the fuck am I doing here? Blah blah blah, and ruin an opportunity. Or I can be like, I can meet you, I can learn from you, and maybe we have a good enough rapport. Again, we can be very different people. That's actually the best.
Right.
I don't need to agree with you. In fact, it's better if I don't on everything, because how else am I going to learn? How else am I going to see things differently? Right? Right. So this is an opportunity. The only way I fuck this up is, is not recognize it for what it is. This might be our only conversation. I hope not, but it might be our only conversation. So I'm not making the most of it while we're here.
Yeah. I mean, you only have this moment right now.
Exactly. And so I'm talking to Miss Counselor Writing Rockstar. And you dig the rock star concept, so there should be like some noxious shades and some over the top rock and roll costume.
I know.
You got the glove
around here.
Yeah, you got the glove.
You know what? I have this here.
Nice.
It's there.
There you go. Flower power.
Rockstar.
Flower power.
Right.
Right, but like I said, you're one of a kind. This is this is the only Charleigh Brennan I'm ever going to meet. So I might as well treat this time like it is a special time, because tomorrow I might not have this opportunity. Tomorrow this might be a completely different way of being.
Right.
You know what I mean? And no, it's and again, people look at it like that. You wouldn't hate the people you disagreed with. You'd be like, okay, maybe he's out to lunch. Maybe he's not out to lunch. Maybe he's this. Maybe he's that. Who cares? Right. Now I go, I disagree with this guy, but I'd still have a beer with him, maybe.
Yeah.
I know beer's your thing, but the idea of that, you can do that. You can get if you can get to that Zen plate, you can get along with just about anyone.
Right. And I've actually found that I'm really good at that. and part of that is just because, no matter what the fuzz is around us, all the trappings of life, we're all at heart people. And I always make a point to remember that. Somebody may have different politics than me, but there's probably a reason why they feel that way. And it could be fear, it could be love, it could be anger, it could be sadness. You don't know, but we can all relate to the emotions. So why not relate to the emotions first and try to understand?
I think the amazing thing when you really sit there and break it down, no matter what people may say about what positions they take on things, a lot of times it comes from the same place.
Right.
Almost always it's the same place. It's just, how do you perceive that difference? Right? How do you perceive that difference? And for everybody, that's a different thing
Mm-hmm.
altogether. You know what I mean? And that's a very, very, very how do I put this? I think that's probably the coolest thing about life.
Mm-hmm.
When you try looking for what's different, I think I said this in another podcast. Intelligence is the ability to discern difference.
Mm-hmm.
Wisdom is the gift of moving past that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No argument there, I see. Yeah. No argument. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah. No, it's such an interesting thing because, like, you know, here we are, we're talking right now.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really know anything about my past.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know anything about yours. And so, you know, I could have come from this really like nice family, this, you know, everything was pretty simple. You know, I didn't have to worry about stuff. It's easy to assume that, but it could be that I came from a really difficult background
Mm-hmm.
and a very, very painful background. And you wouldn't know unless I say it.
Yeah.
You know? And
well,
so go ahead.
If you were troubled by something, I probably would pick up on it a little bit, just how people carry themselves.
Right.
I find people give away their game more often than not. It's just being able to recognize the tells for what they are, right? You've been a psychologist, so you're a counselor. Like, what was your technical term? So I don't mix the two.
Marriage and family therapist.
Marriage therapist. Okay, so
it's a spectrum. You have social workers, marriage and family therapists, psychologists, and psychiatrists. Psychologists and psychiatrists are doctorate degrees. Social work and marriage and family therapy are master's degrees.
Okay, cool. I've learned something new. So I'm going to call you a therapist for the rest of this episode. Right? So as a therapist, just because I'll forget the rest of that, but I'll remember the therapist part for sure. But you listen to people, and you can tell. Again, people give their game away all the time. It's not even like some people are genuine, and you can't believe it. Some people they're up to something. It's like, oh my God, is this going to be one of those weird little like creepy things? No, how the hell do I get out of here like in 5 seconds, right? You can tell all that really quickly.
Right.
We read each other. Although I do think our social practices at this point are not quite what they were a couple of years ago. We still know those tells if we're paying attention to them. So I do feel you give away the game, but like as far as your past, you could tell me you were raised by a dragon, and I'd have no reason to disbelieve you. Because why would I?
There are literally dragons up there.
Yeah. Well, I
could have been raised by one.
Yeah. Well, it's just one of those things where just like you could tell me anything you want, and I have no concept or basis to say it's a truth or a lie. You can be as outlandish as you want. Now, if I think what you're saying is complete and utter bullshit, well, I've already kind of closed my mind to the possibility of what this conversation will be. Also, in those rare, wonderful moments, sometimes what they tell you is true. I interviewed PJ Vernon, and his city he lived in was one of the few places an atomic bomb was tested. And I just said, okay, cool. And moving on, it's like, he goes, I can't believe you didn't even like blink at that. It's like, nah, I'm not gonna doubt you. It's too much work. If you really want to fool me with something, like I'll give you a thumbs up. It's too much work for me to care that much in that way. I'm just gonna take you at your word until your words or your actions prove you wrong. What, right?
And it says even a lie says something about a person. You know, and the way how they lie says something about a person. You know, and a lot of people, we can go back to what, you know, whether we care about what people think of us or not. A lot of times lies at the root of themselves are about people caring a little too much about what other people think of them. So
absolutely no, it's true. Like lying is. So I was always taught I try to be as open as possible because it's easier, and I think by and large it is easier. If you get into that practice, you tend to want to armor yourself up. It's also sometimes you lie to protect yourself. Sometimes you lie to protect other people. Sometimes you lie because, as you say, they care too much, right? You lie to protect yourself. You try to build yourself up to be something. Again, the lie we have at the very beginning. This is who we should be. And you try to project that, and it blows up in your face at some point along the way, right? And your internet connection. Are you still there? She has disappeared, I think.
I'm still here.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I'll make sure.
Yeah. Vermont is very bad.
You froze. So I was like, okay, I better do this. I better do this whole thing before I go into this long diatribe, so we actually know what the hell. But some people lie to build themselves up because, again, they have this self-image they want to try to become. Some people lie because they don't want to offend anybody. Where, again, they care about that person's opinion, saving face. And sometimes it's a cultural thing. Right? Sometimes it's considered a polite thing. Some people lie because they're assholes, and some people just lie, right? And the only lie I really hate, like the lie I hate is the lie of action. Like when your words say one thing and your actions are doing another.
Right.
I hate that. I absolutely hate that. I would just rather you just be honest with me. It saves so much time. It's like. Right. You're saying this, but you're doing this. Why are you doing this if this is what you're saying? Very rarely do the two connect together in a way that's believable. Very rarely. I hate that.
Yeah. I had a relationship with somebody who he told me that he loved me, and I didn't buy it. And I didn't buy it because I knew by his actions that the way how he treated me wasn't about genuinely loving me. He never asked me questions about myself. It was always about himself. And it's like, so the reason he loves me is because I listen to him and it makes him feel important. It wasn't about listening to me in return. It wasn't about understanding me in return. It was simply that because I was good at listening to him, I was putting up a mirror that he misinterpreted as being like, oh, I agree with you. You're so special. You're so wonderful. But inside, I was really thinking, this guy's a piece of work. I don't love him. And I won't ever, this is not a person I want to have in my life forever because he is so lacking in insight. Like he's so into himself that he's never going to see me. So this is temporary. And it was very temporary.
Well, yeah. Once you realize it, it ends. It ends usually really quickly too.
Right.
Usually.
Right.
But sometimes getting to that realization again, and the other lie you gotta watch out is the lie of yourself. When you realize what's going on, you're like, no, it can't be that. It absolutely can't. I don't want to hear it. No. It really can be that. Yeah, I don't waste time. It's like I'm not gonna lie to you. There's no point. What's in it for me, right? It's too much work. Then I have to remember what I told you. That hurts.
That is way too much work.
Yeah, it's way too.
There's no point to that.
Yeah, it's too much work. Like, I don't think people realize like lying. I admire liars' work ethics because I don't have it. I'm lazy.
Right.
It's like, why do you tell the truth? It's like, it's just so much easier to do it because I don't have to think about it anymore. And even if I do change my mind along the way, I can actually just go, well, I changed my mind because it's true. I did change my mind.
Right.
I said, well, earlier time, I said this.
And there's no shame in that.
Yeah.
There's no shame in changing your mind.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. So it's like, I don't have to think. But if I'm lying to you, it's like, oh shit, what did I say I was doing that night before? Okay. I was at the pool with the guys instead of with you. What's a good excuse? I worked. Yes, I worked that night. And here's this elaborate little lie and construct I've built. All right. If I have a half decent little bit of brains, maybe I have a little back. I tell them, hey, listen, can you tell her at work, or she'll beat me, and I'm afraid she'll beat me pretty bad. So, right, and right, but if I'm not smart, if I'm just going to rely on it, it's like I still got to remember the basics of what I've said to you, right? Because it hurts the brain, right?
It's a lot. It's unnecessary.
Whereas, to tell the truth, it's like a dump. I don't have to
Yeah.
think about it anymore. It's gone.
I'd rather just pull the Band-Aid off instead of like, go ouch and take 12 minutes to get it off and just keep ouching when I can just tear it off and it hurts for 1 minute and then I'm fine.
Exactly.
You know?
Like I said, I'm too old. I'm too old to worry about it too much because it hurts just a little too much to care that much. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I would rather just, hey, this is what I honestly feel. Don't like it, shrug. Right? Shrug. If you do like it, okay.
Right.
Right? And that's it. And if I'm lying to you about it, well, eventually you're not going to like it because sooner or later the truth's going to come out. And when it does, this big thing, this little thing is now this big thing. Why did you lie? Oh.
Right.
Because that's when it hurts. That's when it really hurts, right?
Yeah.
It's not even what you did anymore. It's the fact that you lied to me to do that thing.
Right.
And,
Right.
And it's like, I could forgive that. That was stupid, but I could forgive that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't forgive this.
Right. Right. Like, here's an example. I was talking with this kid once, and he was telling me that he went to the playground. And when he was at the playground, there were real pirates there. Real pirates. Not just people dressed up as pirates, real pirates. And he had this whole adventure with these pirates at the playground. And he told me this elaborate story. Now, a lot of adults would probably say, look, you're lying to me. There were no real pirates at that playground. Like, why would pirates be at a playground? But I said to the kid that sounds really cool. Now, could you tell me, is that something that really happened or something you wished happened? And he was smart as to say, that's what I wished happened. And that's okay. He told this great story about this fantasy he had about playing with pirates at the playground. Lots of peas there. And that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great. He didn't intend to lie. He was just so caught up in his fantasy that he wanted it to be true. So he told it like it was true.
And then maybe in another way it was true. I mean, here's the other thing. Here's the other thing about it too. It's like just because it's in your head doesn't make it any less real.
Yeah.
Right? It might only be in your head, but that doesn't really matter. It's
Right.
there.
Right.
So why say it's a lie? If it's all in your head, is it all in your head? Maybe. Okay. I'm not going to argue if it's real. If someone comes to me with a talking, like as crazy as this might sound, they have a doll that talks, like only they can hear the voice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it's out in my head, I'm going to think, okay, especially if it's an adult, I'm going to be like, I'm not sure what's going on here. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that is the weirdest thing about the whole thing, and it's just a normal occurrence. And it just occasionally has a conversation with the doll, and appears and the doll tells back. I'm not saying I wouldn't be a little weirded out by it at first, because I would be lying if I said that.
Right.
But there would come a point with it too, like, well, is it really hurting anybody? Not really. And for all I know, they're hearing a voice there I'm talking about. Who am I to judge?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then at that point, I can just let it go. Whatever.
Right.
Look, our Prime Minister in Canada talked to a crystal ball for 13 years when he was Prime Minister of Canada. And apparently something stopped back. He was Prime Minister longer than any other Prime Minister in history. What the fuck I'm going to say? Hey, you're crazy. Well, you might be crazy, but you were the Prime Minister of Canada for years and years. So maybe I'm the crazy one because you're in charge. I don't know. Right? Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I it's my favorite line. Like, everybody has an opinion on J.K. Rowling. But I think my favorite thing in Deathly Hallows is that conversation with Dumbledore in his head.
Mm-hmm.
Because I love that line. Oh, of course this is all in your head. But why would that make it any less real?
Right.
I love that line. It's so true. Because the world, for the most part, is in our own heads.
Absolutely.
right?
And it's our choice how to interact with the way we process that information.
Absolutely.
You know?
Tomorrow I could be writing about ice cream on my board. Why not? I don't have to talk about, the seriousness of the world. And let's be honest, if we're going to be real for a second, me even talking about the seriousness of the world, while that conversation's good to have, you don't need to have it every single day.
Right.
Right?
That would wear on you.
Oh, absolutely. No, it would just drive you crazy. You would just become obsessed about this one thing. And like I said, I think we're going to a crazy time. That all said, that doesn't matter. You know what does matter? Who am I spending that time with? What am I doing in this time?
Right.
Because it really doesn't matter if it's a good time or a bad time. You're still free to do whatever you damn well please. And that's the thing, right? I think the one weirdest thing about this time that I think a lot of people, the choice of how you choose to play in this world is entirely up to you.
Right.
Right? You don't have to cooperate. In fact, the older I get, the more fun it is not to cooperate.
Right.
It's fun to see, because you don't have to. If you're, to truly know you love someone, when you can be absolutely disagreeable, when you can be absolutely cantankerous, when you can absolutely tell terrible jokes that only that person will understand. Love isn't the happy dappy, like, I love you. It's there. It's part of it.
Yeah.
But the whole of it is, honey, I forgot to wear pants today. And you have that freedom to tell that to your son, honey, I forgot to wear pants today. Oh, how was the office? Well, they admired my ass, honey. They admired my ass. Right? That's all. I mean, what else can you say, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. And it sounds like a silly way of looking at the world, but I think the one thing about today, the biggest thing I think about the world going forward is the real war isn't about rights, it's about joy. If our world is joyless, I don't think it's worth living in. Right? That's my opinion. Now, someone would argue, you live. I says, what are you living for? If you take away happiness, take away joy, take away love, you take away like dirty jokes, take away ice cream and sprinkles and all this other like really fun stuff that makes life worth doing, those little moments, then we got a problem, because then life ain't fun no more. And there's no point in playing a game in which I really am tired of living in an Orwellian novel. Like that's the thing. Like I think we all are tired of it, and it doesn't seem like it that part doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon, and that sucks.
Yeah.
But I don't have to double think my way through things. I can be cantankerous and uncooperative and go on a quest for forbidden donuts and go off and build like Lego castles to the infinite, and because really this is the time I have. I might as well live the life I want and do the things I want to do.
Right.
And really, if I have to break the rules to do it, so be it. As long as life is about taking what you want and to pay the price for it. And everybody's got to choose what that, and everybody's got to choose what that is. And no matter what, you got to respect whatever choice someone makes. You got to respect it. Doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. What does matter? What does matter is, are you aware? Like, are you aware of the consequences of your actions? And are you making and are you in spite of all those things, do you still feel it's worth saying and doing anyway?
Right.
If the answer is yes, fuck it. There's nothing else to say.
Right.
Just do it.
Right.
The rest of the world.
It may make you happy to like walk into a store and steal all the TVs, but there's going to be consequences of that.
Absolutely.
So you have to. So it's not just about the thing that you like and that you want to do that makes you feel good. It's also, are you okay with the consequences? Can you still feel good when you have to deal with the fallout from it?
Yeah. Because that's like, honestly, that's it in a nutshell. And then it doesn't matter what it is, stealing TVs, hijacking a car. Not, I'm not, by the way, I'm not, just before we continue down this path of thinking, I'm not condoning any criminal actions, ladies and gentlemen. That I want to make this very perfectly clear. It's not, but the thing is, you realize as you get older that life has no rules. It really doesn't. The only thing that you know for sure is that one day you are not going to wake up anymore. And everything else is completely up in the air.
Right.
So you got to make a choice of who you are going to be and what kind of life do you want to live. That's it.
Right.
Much like there is no other, there are no rules that matter, no laws that matter beyond those things. And that's not going to necessarily be the popular answer, but I would argue it's the only answer.
Mm-hmm. Right. Like I can look back at my life and I can look at all the people who, when I was a kid in school, and they told me, oh, you're going to succeed so much at all these things. And when you grow up, you're going to make all this money and you're going to have all this success because you are smart and you get the A's. And I don't think I've lived up to any of those expectations people have had of me, but I've lived up to expectations that I've built of myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could have, you know, found a way to, you know, live my life in a very straight line and I would have been fine. But would it have been happy? Would it have been fulfilling? You know, whereas I have done so many different things with my life. I've lived in other countries. I've tried all kinds of different jobs. I may not be made of money, but you know what? I've tried things and it was so worthwhile because it wasn't a straight line. I went off on so many different paths and it was all worth it. And to somebody on the outside, may not look worth it because I may not have all the money in the world. I may not have all the status in the world. But to me, I feel like I'm a success because I tried things and I experienced things. And what more is there to life other than experiencing it?
Well, when you get right down to it, you're not going to carry any of that crap.
Not at all.
Money, that ain't coming with you when you're dead. Yeah, and to be perfectly fair, I do believe in God, but that don't mean that that's for sure going to happen when I go away. I'm not sure where I'm going to go, what's going to go with me.
Right.
Maybe nothing, for all I fucking know. Right? But, so, if that's the case, not much really matters. Status, meh. Money, meh.
And you can be afraid of all of that. You can be afraid of the unknown or choose to be like, you know what? I'm just not going to know. And that's okay. So I'm just going to work with what I know and work with what I experience and try some new things and see what's going to happen.
Exactly. Life is an exercise in going beyond your comfort zone. That's where living actually begins. It doesn't begin where you're comfortable. It goes where you're uncomfortable. You got to seek discomfort in places where it's comfortable. And that is it. There's no ifs. There's no ands. There's no buts. And like I said, there's not much else to life. If you look at it from like the big philosophy point of view, it's like there are no rules. You're not going to walk away. And this is your starting point. Good luck.
Yeah. Exactly.
And if you have that, well, you're doing good. Right?
It's like, have you ever read, there's an comic by the Oatmeal in How to Be Perfectly Unhappy?
I've not read that one. No.
It is the best because it examines, you know, we're told that the most important thing in the world is to be happy. We get told that all the time. And the reality is not everything in life is going to make us happy. But sometimes just because, even though it doesn't make us happy, doesn't mean it's not worthwhile. And it doesn't mean it doesn't benefit us. So sometimes it's okay not to be happy. Like if something's just satisfying, that's okay too. That's valuable too. You know, nothing ever has to be completely perfect. And we shouldn't keep striving for some like unreal ideal of happiness when, you know, the reality is happiness means nothing if you don't know struggle.
happiness is not a like comfort like stream of consciousness. The lake of happiness is like actually we'll call it the roller coaster of happiness. There's the starting point. Da, 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 da. You get to the top. Okay, are you ready to begin? No, it doesn't matter because you're going down now. And right, the roller coaster is off.
Right.
Right. I like the wooden roller coasters. They're a little scary because they go a little faster. And I don't need to go upside down and do the loop. That's nice, but it's not necessary. I just want the rush. Right. So
more noise. It's more of an experience in some ways.
Yeah. Exactly. That's me. That's the kind of the psychopath I am. And so, right? That's life. We have that inner. Right this minute, I have no money. By the end of this week, that will change. Next week, I don't know where my next check's coming from. Week after, I know where my next check is coming from. So it's kind of like this adventure. That's the freelance life. You don't have that guaranteed set.
Right.
Whatever. You just do it. So knowing this, I made the decision to like, okay, how do I maximize my time and keep doing things I'm supposed to do for as long as I can? Now tomorrow, I actually gotta get off my ass and find more work so I can keep making income come in. And because check's nice this week, and I'm in a position where this will be fine for a short time, but only for a short time. And if I don't move, well, what the fuck am I doing? Right? So, but that's life. If I was comfortable, I'd be like, I'm comfortable doing this podcast. I mean, I've done 645 of them, but even then, I'm still having these up and down conversations, and we're going where the hell we're going. You know what I mean? So,
right.
That's happiness. Happiness is not this straight line. It's very crooked. I notice that life is very crooked in general.
Yeah. We keep trying to sort it and make it orderly, and that's just not how life works. It's not orderly. It's not tidy. You can't wrap it up in a bow and give it as a present, you know?
It too is not perfect. And you can look at that and go, well, I can try to make it perfect. Like, no, you really don't want to. Because with perfection, there is no change.
Right.
Life is change. Life is growth. Life is fall. Life is rise. Life is go. And somewhere along the way, you're going to check out. That's it. It sounds very final and stuff, but it's just that's how it goes. You may not be in the best place when you go, but maybe you're in the best place to go. Life is life, right? So, but before we wrap up, because we did mention it, we gotta get to your books at some point. We have to get there first. So, piano lessons. So are you a performer? Are you an actual legit performer? Did I get that nailed down?
I don't at this point. I haven't had a piano for a long time. I haven't practiced my guitar for a long time. I maybe just sing in the shower. But again, it's that journey thing. You know, I wanted to learn those things, so I did. And it's incredibly fulfilling. Like, I know that I can sing in the shower and probably sound pretty good. And I'm happy with that. You know? I mean, some people, they need to go somewhere with it. I don't need to. I'm fine with it as it is.
Well, sometimes I think the thing about art, and the cool thing about art is this isn't talked about enough. Sometimes art's just about the expression. I draw stuff like here.
Right.
My art book is nearly finished. It's definitely seen better days, but I do write you.
Oh, that's cute.
Right? That's right too.
Right.
Are you Japanese? Have you ever watched the show Full Metal Alchemist?
I'm sorry, what?
Have you ever watched the show Full Metal Alchemist?
Yes, absolutely.
Brotherhood?
Both of them.
Well, you know who this is.
Ooh, nice.
Right. And I'll show you because I am a big. My first attempt at Edward Elric.
Not bad.
Yeah.
You got his personality in that face.
Absolutely. The mischievous wolf. That's who he is.
Right.
I that's who he is. He is incredibly loyal to his friends and family,
mm-hmm.
but he likes breaking the rules. He likes kind of
Yeah.
He's the dog that chases cars that doesn't know what to do when he finally gets it.
Right.
Sometimes juniors will give him the car, and it's like, so my favorite little scene in the first series in terms of just pure humor was him fighting Mustang one-on-one. That was funny to watch. Because it's like, you see, here's ready, looks, just bolts because he knows what's coming, right?
Right.
Fight! Too late, kid. Bang!
Right.
Right? And he just hands Edward his ass for like 3 minutes. Edward's like, I gotta fight. I gotta get all this aggression down on. Okay, we'll give you. Okay, you want this fight? We will give you this fight. Here you go.
Right.
And Mustang proceeds to hand him his ass.
Right.
Right. And it's like, that is so typically Ed. I played the video game, like the PS2. They have an RPG for like game.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So you have the option. The game progresses either way. You fight Armstrong. You actually fight Armstrong. Big muscles, like, oh my God. Hank. He's a freaking Hank. And so I actually did some damage, not a lot, but I did some damage to him. And then he just owned me the whole way. So my favorite part is, it's like Ed's on the ground, just can't get up. I gave him everything I had. I can't move. Then the Armstrong goes, "Oh, Edward, you held back on me. Let's do it again." No, let's not do that again. No. Because he just like, but that's Ed. Like, you give him that car he wants. He usually gets his ass handed to him. But he's also one of the most loyal. I had this debate about Edward would have been Alphonse is why Edward is such a good character, because Alphonse is his center, the example, because he's the big brother, and this is someone who he feels responsible for the predicament that he's in, but also still the big brother, still putting an example on for his younger brother.
Right.
So you see that with him and how he handles himself, and it's like, okay. And that's his best quality. Like, his best qualities are right there.
Right.
His hilarious qualities are like the dog chasing cars. I'll kick your ass most. No, you won't. I'll go after you. Like, I'll go after like Rinry. It's like, no, Rinry will hand him his ass too, and that's the other. I love you, right? But that's who he is, and that is so like. That's why I love that. Like, that is my favorite anime. I'm watching Fairy Tail right now. It's the other like that. Is not the best story I've ever seen, but I still find myself rooting for every one of those characters, and that show has made me cry like 3 times. It's brutal.
Right. Yeah. I've never made it completely through Fairy Tail. I'll admit that, but there are some fantastic characters in that series.
So how far did you get?
Oh gosh, I don't even remember. It was a while ago.
Did you get to the Grand Magic Games?
I think so.
Did you see Future Lucy?
No, maybe I haven't gotten to that point.
Okay, so literally 2 parts of that made me cry. The games leads to like this crazy arc, but the prologue, the precursor to that is there's this hooded figure watching these games while these guys are battling like against this rival Gale, and that's how it starts. It's Lucy from the future, in a future where where dragons came through this portal and overran the world. Right? Nobody survived but her. Right? She's back to try to prevent it. So she dies. She actually dies to save her younger self. And there's a scene where you literally, if you did her tattoo here is gone. And there's this scene where it's like, I wish I had more adventures. So then the villain behind this, they fight and they win, obviously. So future Lucy disappears and dies, and she wakes up. This made me cry because it's the perfect end of Fairy Tale. She wakes up in like this heaven. She's got her own back, and then she finds Natsu dragging her off onto an adventure, and that made me go.
Right.
That made me cry because it was like,
right.
That's the perfect ending to the show. Like they didn't have to do another arc. That's the real ending of the show.
Mm-hmm.
It's about Lucy meeting Natsu and discovering who she is. That's the very beginning, but that's the heart of Lucy's character and her arc.
Mm-hmm.
Natsu helped her become who she was. That is, and Natsu, she makes Natsu a better person just being there. They're actually really good for each other.
Mm-hmm.
But that scene choked me up. Her death is super sad. But
right.
her going to like that, whatever that heaven was, that made me even sad. Like that made me cry. Like it's like, oh wow, that was beautiful.
Right. Yeah.
Miss Charleigh, we have to talk about your stuff before we go.
I know we do, but you know what? All of this fits.
Yeah, no, I know
it fits so well because my story is literally about somebody who's really ordinary, and what he expects from his life is ordinary. And then he's put into extraordinary circumstances, and he has to figure out how to navigate a world and a life that is completely different from what he expected and hoped for. And in any kind of situation like that, where your life just goes completely off the rails, you can either let it destroy you or you can let it make you. And the first book is all about him starting to realize that maybe there are other paths that he can take. And they don't have to be the normal path. So he can do something a little different. He doesn't have to do something completely different, but there's room to try, you know? And, you know, I love taking my characters that I write and putting them in really difficult, really confusing circumstances, because that's the test right there. That's how you learn who you are. So, you know, talking about like Edward and Alphonse, like, you know, we were talking earlier about how, you know, there are qualities that you have that I don't have, but I admire them and I think they're great. Or maybe qualities that I have that you don't have, and you can appreciate them and value them. And it's kind of like with Edward and Alphonse, you're looking at two characters who have different skill sets, different qualities, and they complement each other so well because they aren't the same, because they're different, and they help each other be better people, you know? And that's kind of what I like to look at in the characters I write. And it's how they interact and how, you know, sometimes life is really ugly, and sometimes we get kind of ugly because life is ugly. Like, I have one character who he turned 18, he graduated from high school, and he was pretty much kicked out of his house. And he's angry and bitter and depressed and doesn't make a point to take care of himself. And he's somebody with a lot of potential, but he doesn't know what to do because he's so used to other people dictating his life. Then I have another character whose parents had high expectations of him, want him to go to, you know, college, get a degree in something important. And he decides, no, I'm going to be a gamer. I'm going to be a pro gamer. I'm good at it. And I'm going to show you that I'm good at it. And he's good at it, you know? And sometimes it's just that we have to look at our own expectations and figure out how much of those are really our expectations for ourselves and how much of that is really what other people expect from us. What do we buy into? What do we choose to buy into? You know, do we want to put all of our money in somebody else's concept of who we should be? Or do we want to, you know, maybe hold back a little bit and find out what the real investment could be? So
that is one of the best life lessons you can have there, ladies and gentlemen. The world is going to tell you what it expects. But at some point, you got to realize this is my part of this. There are no rules.
Right.
so you can be whoever you want to be, and no one can tell you different.
Right.
You just gotta be willing to pay the price. Robert Jordan's one of my favorite quotes is "Take what you want and pay for it." That's truth. Everything's got a price.
Right.
If you're willing to pay for it, you're free.
Right.
You're absolutely free.
Right.
Yeah, but I think, and one last little thing. No, it does fit really well. I have a theory about every author I meet.
Mm-hmm.
This is the thing. Every story they write is something about themselves. Their story is as much part of the story they're writing as anything else.
Absolutely.
And so in this almost 90 minutes, right? I hope it didn't feel like 90 minutes. I hope yeah.
This has been great. I could do this like every day.
Well, it's because this is like a similar skill set, right? I am not a therapist,
mm-hmm.
but I could be, right? I think I have the skill set for it. You are a therapist, and you could be a podcaster if you really wanted to be, because you got the skills for it. Mad skills, right? But no, like I learned very much that you just go about and mind your business, do your thing. So, best thing, I think the scary thing about you is I would not want to be the obstacle in your way. I think you'd run me over with a car when I went back. But I do think, though, that you very much are like most people. You just want to do your own thing. You're curious about life, and there are things you want to do, and you're going to go do those things, and God help anybody who gets in that way. But beyond that, you just want to be left alone and have a good time.
Right. I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
You know, I have an older brother. I have two brothers. My younger brother, I'm the only girl.
Oh, you're the middle one.
Yeah. My younger brother and I like this from the beginning. Like, we're only a year and a half apart. Always hung out together. Like, my mom told me that, so often, like, she'd be doing something and she'd notice the house is really quiet. And she'd be like, uh-oh, what are the kids doing? And of course, she'd find me and my younger brother, and we're just having a blast playing together. Just a total blast. Totally occupied with each other because we were friends and we got along. It wasn't just about being siblings. We're friends. My older brother, well, he thinks he knows how I'm supposed to live. And so he's kind of the obstacle. He's that obstacle that keeps trying to get in my way.
One question. What's the age gap between you and your oldest?
What?
What's the age gap between your older brother and yourself?
3 years.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know exactly why you think that's interesting. But yeah, there are things that have always been easy for me that have been hard for him. And I think he kind of fixates on those things. So he thinks that because I've had certain successes that he wish he had, that he could tell me the best way that I should live my life.
Yeah.
He's starting to do that with his son a little bit too. His son is 16 years old. He decided he wants to be a doctor when he grows up because he wants to help people, which is a noble thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
My older brother's like, well, you have to become a surgeon because a surgeon makes more money.
Oh,
and I sat with my nephew. I'm like, look, you're not going to know what area of healthcare you're going to be good at until you try it. And it could be you would be a terrible surgeon. And there's no point in becoming a terrible surgeon because even if surgeons make a lot of money, you're not going to make a lot of money if you're not good at it. So it doesn't even matter.
Yeah. It
doesn't even matter. But you know what? You could possibly be the best pediatrician out there. And that's great because you'll still be making a decent income. So it doesn't even matter. What matters is that you're doing something you feel good about and that you feel like you're good at. And my brother's on a different wavelength. He thinks it's about certain benchmarks of success that frankly, I don't subscribe to. And nobody has to subscribe to those things. So,
if I were to do an outside guess about your brother, he's a man. We talked about this at the very beginning about expectations for oneself and that self-image for what is actually there.
right.
It sounds to me your older brother hasn't had that come to Jesus moment where he recognizes that image is not necessary.
Right.
It also could be also just based back that he is the oldest. He put certain expectations on himself. I am the oldest of my siblings, and I understand that.
Right.
Am I right? My sister's about to go to school to get into graphic design, and I'm really proud of her. I really want her to do it. Big brother me goes, though, this is the thing I have in my head, and this is maybe right or wrong, but this is what I have in my head. She could have done this already, right? Without the paper. But I also know for her life, this is where I'm like, okay, I need to shut up and look pretty, right? Is the part that it doesn't really matter what I think she needs, but what she thinks she needs.
Right.
And younger me didn't get that. Older me does. And I don't need to. Frankly, I don't care what she does as long as she's happy doing it. And that's the thing. And I wish her. I'm really, really proud because I'm seeing her this week coming up, and it's going to be last time I see her for a while. And I know that, and so I'm going to enjoy it the time I have with her. But for the rest of it, it's I think your older brother had those expectations and never beat him out of there. Younger brother. So I'm gonna also guess a little bit of something too. You guys were a pact also because you had older brother to deal with. And older brother sometimes, especially younger when they're younger, like, and I know this because I've been the older sibling, so I know how this works. right? Older sibling rules until you get to about the teenage years. Teenage years, it goes back and forth. There's a give and there's take. You win some battles, you lose some battles, right? That's just how it goes. But younger siblings never forget. And also, kind of like, okay, that guy is the problem. United, right?
Right.
So the older guy, if he would have had brains, would try to divide you.
Mm-hmm.
And if that didn't work, he got cooked. Sometimes I'm sure it did. Sometimes he pulled off some cool tricks here and there, but by and large, sounds to me. By the way, you and your younger brother are still like real tight, real cool, and when you hang out.
He lives very far away, so not as much as we used to. But
when you are together,
yeah, when we're together, I mean, it's like nothing. No time has passed, pretty much.
How old's the gap between him and you?
I'm sorry?
How old's the gap between him and you?
My younger brother?
Yeah.
A year and a half.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. There's another reason why the tightness there too. You guys are a little closer in age too. So
right. We always had more in common. We went to Star Trek conventions together when we were in high school, stuff like that.
Okay. So which Star Trek's your favorite?
Deep Space Nine.
Of course. It's the best show. It is easily the best show of the bunch.
Right.
I like Next Generation. It's a great cast. But if you look at it from character progression point of view, nothing tops Space Nine. Like for me, I remember that was like the golden era sci-fi. You had Deep Space Nine, you had Babylon 5. Although people don't really discount it, it still was a solid show for what it was. Stargate was around at that same time. Mm-hmm. Honestly, when Deep Space Nine and Babylon 5 ended, so did that golden age of science fiction.
Right.
Once they were gone, it was I hate to put on Voyager, but Voyager sucked. In comparison, it just Voyager.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot that I wish Voyager was. I feel like there's a lot it could have been, and it just didn't quite get there. And there's some good episodes.
Oh yeah.
And I liked those episodes, and sometimes
later
they were
later in the series. Later in the series, there's some really good ones. Right. Early in the series, that's hard. I'm not gonna lie. That the first 3 years of that show is hard. There are some good ones, but they're not that many good ones in the first 3 years. Right.
And sometimes I wish they actually showed us the Year of Hell.
Oh no. So it's not just so no. So here. Okay, so I'm not going to bash Voyager for too much longer because we do have to call it at some point. But here's the problem with it. it all comes down to really one character. He's a great character. It's not this is Voyager in a nutshell. Ensign Kim.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you had right there a gift. Guy just really going into Starfleet, really getting on the ship. Holy crap! They get thrown the concept of Voyager is amazing. I think that the concept is fantastic.
Absolutely.
Right? But okay, so let's talk about some things that should have happened that didn't happen. Yet it's golden opportunities in year one that you didn't really touch too much. You have a Maquis crew and a Federation crew becoming one crew. So it makes no sense that it would be a completely Federation-run designed ship. There would be still probably some Federation protocol, chain of command, but you also got people that have been kind of used to doing their own thing for a very, very long time. There wasn't really a lot of that in the first season, and there probably should have been more of that. Number one.
Right.
That's right. And then you have Ensign Kim, who's still the same, happy, plucky, Harry Kim. He's always been. Year two rolls along. Okay? You did 1 year. You still were with the fucking Kazon, which was just like, again, I'm not knocking everything about the first season, but there were things that were way too long. That was one of those things. They had this really unique opportunity to really do some really deep sci-fi questions with Voyager because they were away from Starfleet, completely cut off. And they're, again, big question. When is survival and principle, like you have this naturally easy thing, an easy conflict of survival versus principle. And you can always go to that every episode, every race you deal with, and you can do it in different ways. Never really touched that. Right? Never really touched that as much as you could have. So the only characters that developed in the whole show were the Doctor. I will give Robert Picardo got to do some really cool things with the Doctor. That is one of the few true character developed things.
Right.
Tom and B'Elanna did get some. At least the relationship was a progression that you saw in every episode.
Yeah.
Okay? That was, although why they didn't show the wedding, I will never, ever understand that one. That was like
where's the payoff there?
Yeah, that's a slam dunk. And then the only other character that got really any development, honestly, was 709.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was, I don't know if she made the show better exactly, but she definitely added a dimension to the show that was desperately needed. Right? All the while, though, Ensign Harry Kim is still Ensign Harry Kim. You had a 7-year arc that you could have done with Harry Kim. It was right there. It's like right there. Could have promoted him. You could have, there was so much right there.
Well, Harry Kim, he's the fool. In tarot, he's the boy on a journey to becoming a man. He is like Frodo. He is like, what's
Peter Parker.
Right, exactly. You have the naive, innocent person who has this very kind of contained idea of what life is supposed to be, and then you pull the rug out from underneath them, and that's where they grow. And they could have done that with him, and they didn't. He could have been the highlight of that whole series.
No, he was. I think he's by far the most wasted character in the series, by far, right? And then, but again, but you can make that argument with all of them, really. Like Chakotay was up. There was a lot. Again, what was his story? Why did he join the Maquis? What drove that man to abandon the Federation and join it to begin with? One of my favorite episodes in that series was the episode where the holonovel Tuvok wrote it was like, what if you joined the Maquis and what did you do to take over the ship? That was so interesting. So interesting.
Right.
And it was like, you had this literally in the palm of your hands. This should have been season 1. Why wasn't this season 1?
Right.
It hurts. Voyager hurts. Right, season 9? Probably the most complete cast, top to bottom.
Absolutely.
Top to bottom. Right?
Everybody was gold. Frickin' Quark.
Yeah.
Even Rom showed some incredible, like, just character development. And
It's actually, so all the Frankie Nog is amazing character
absolutely.
arc. Amazing character arc. But yeah, let's go past it. The worst character in that whole series is Zial. By far. Okay? Take her aside. Right? You can't do this with any show. You have Lita, Keiko, right? Wei-Yun, Garrick, Gultakot, Damar, right? You have the Founder. You have Gowron. You have like, this is just the supporting cast. Never mind the main cast. This is the supporting cast. General Martok's one of my favorite characters in the whole series, right?
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, the only character you can knock on the cast is Ezri. And you can't really knock it. They just didn't have time. Right? They did what they could with what they had. And Ezri is still a great character. I just wish there was just a little bit more. But she was in the last season and only the last season. So you still got some decent stuff with her.
Right.
That's like, as much as I like Babylon 5, nothing can compete with Deep Space Nine's cast. Nothing. We haven't even gotten to Kira or Cisco or Odo or like Miles O'Brien, Bashir. I mean, all these characters, even Worf. Worf was a different person when he came out of that show. Right. And Worf had been in another show for 7 years. I mean, that, like, like, my favorite episode, I think, so my favorite episodes in Deep Space Nine, Cisco getting the Romulans to join the Rories, always, like, that one is just, that was good writing. That was so good. When they fought the Klingons the first time, that was fun. That was a really fun two-parter. That was a really fun one. I think the wedding with Jadzia and Worf was hilarious, but for different reasons. Right? The holosuite, the baseball game with the Vulcans was awesome. That was amazing. Talk about character development, right? And then and then anything with Garrett, my favorite, like
Garrick. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Garrick.
Hands down.
I think my favorite one is Garrick and Worf, and how both were fighting, but for different things. Like Garrick facing his claustrophobia in like the worst possible way. Like, I mean, you come out of that with a huge respect of who Garrick is, because that was his fear, his worst fear, and he had to do it because he was the only one that could help people escape. He was the only one that could do that. That's a battle. That is an amazing, amazing battle.
That is a strong person.
Yeah. And it's a very strong person. Then there's Worf. Every day, getting his ass, like fighting these Jem'Hadar, getting his ass, winning, but man, paying a price. That scene when he fights the leader, and the leader's like, "You've proven your worth. Stop. Just stay the fuck down, because I don't want to beat you anymore." Right? No, I'm not yielding. And then Jem'Hadar just realized, I can't beat you. I can kill you, but that's not the same thing.
Right.
That's not the same thing at all. And I don't want to kill you. I respect you. That's an amazing, and Bashir being both the changeling and like that was such a cool little like, you didn't see that coming, right?
Right.
Right.
Like every character had payoff.
Yeah.
Every single character. Like Bashir could have been the Harry Kim of Deep Space Nine.
He was the Harry Kim of that show.
But he had payoff.
Yes.
And that's what part of what made it so good. Like you can't write anything with an ensemble cast and forget about half of them and expect the person who reads or watches whatever to feel okay about half the people being forgotten about.
It hurts a lot.
Yeah.
Like watching if I watch a Deep Space Nine episode and then I watch Voyager, I'm actually hurt when I watch Voyager, because it's like, you could have been that. Why weren't you? Like, why weren't you that?
Right.
Yeah, right. And
it's not just you could have done that, but you have done that and you didn't bother to do it again.
So the
You
only thing
knew
I'm
how
gonna,
to do it, and you
the,
didn't.
the only thing I will say, in all fairness to Voyager, and this is one little thing, is it wasn't the design was you go like the old Star Trek. You go on this adventure, the characters and crew would come back in another week. But even so, okay, if you want a slow progression down, you don't have to be that deep. You don't have to be, but show me something, like something, right?
Right.
Right? You can be a fun show, but you can't like Neelix is the same guy essentially the whole series. Neelix is a great actor. It's not his fault. Anyway, is right.
Right.
So Doctor, 7 and 9. You can make the argument for Janeway a little bit, and Paris, and so five characters.
Right.
That hurts.
Yeah.
That hurts. Okay.
It's just not enough.
Oh yeah. Okay. We both need a hug after that one.
Absolutely. If only I had something nearby to hug.
Yeah, here. It's all love.
Yay!
So real quick before we, so the last thing, since you're geek galore, what's your favorite book series?
Ooh. Well, I'll have to look at my books behind me. Shoot. Gosh. It's so hard to say because I'm kind of that person, like I take a lot from every little thing. So like to me, like I can look at like Little Women, I felt was so formative to me. And then like I look at Rick Riordan's books, I'm like, that's great because it's formative for another age of people. Mm-hmm. And like I love that about it. Like I love books that I carry with me and I keep carrying them with me, and I read them over again, and I'm like, every time in my life I read them, it means something different because I've gotten older and I've experienced more things. So yeah, it's hard to say.
So for me, 3.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I'll go 4. 3 series, 1 book. We'll do the book first. Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury.
Yeah.
The first book and only book to this day that's ever scared me. Okay. Series. Roger Zelazny's Amber series, first 5 books. The prose is so tight, and it tells so much in so little. Like that's the model of storyteller I want to be. Someone that can tell you one little story of some depth. That's amazing.
Right.
As I've gotten older, I've appreciated Michael Moorcock, but particularly Hawkman. I love the people talk about Elric, and that's cool, but I love that Hawkman is so compactly just in this one series. Mm-hmm. And it's such a, so you have this evil empire that like puts a jewel in his skull, and he goes on this quest, and it's an amazing little story of how he frees himself and ends up fighting the empire. Like it's a neat, really cool story, and I love the imagination. So Amber and Hawkman are super imaginative, but for pure emotional gravitas, I'd have to say the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. I love Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time too, but Stephen King that series is beautiful. It's truly a beautiful, beautiful series. And again, last book made me cry, but my favorite book I think I've ever read by Stephen King is still Wizard in Glass. It's still, I think it is the perfect love story. It didn't make me cry or anything like that, but it's just like, it was damn near perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel that way about a lot of Neil Gaiman's writing. So emotionally evocative.
So like, I feel bad because I read both Ray Bradbury and Charles DeLint first.
Right.
I get the feeling if I had read Gaiman before DeLint, I would have liked Gaiman more than. Right. I'm never going to say he's bad, by all means, but myths into stories, DeLint does it as well. And it's close. I honestly think it's close, and I honestly think, but I think DeLint overall does it better. That all said, Sandman rules. Sandman's freaking yeah. Sandman's amazing.
And also Terry Pratchett.
He's good.
Amazing. Like, you know, I feel like the thing I love about the Discworld series is that you don't even have to read the stories in order to get something from them, because he didn't write it in a way that's necessarily sequential. He broke out to different stories with different groups of characters and would revisit them again. And like,
I love Death so much.
Right.
Death is awesome. You know when he shows up and it's like, well, we know it's about to happen here. Like every time you see him, it's like, well,
right.
Except for Rincewind.
Right.
So right. I will say this: I'm not a Rincewind. You read one Rincewind book, you kind of read them all, and the best one's Eric. My opinion, the best one's Eric.
Right.
Because oddly fitting of our time. The dragon wins. If you look at the dragon as a link to fear, right? We live in a very fearful time, and what we will do to appease that dragon sometimes makes us less than human. And in particular, that story, to me, it was one of those most informing things. It's, in my opinion, it is the smartest of all the Rincewind stories. I love Granny Weatheraxe. City Watch is great. I love the Death novels, although I know there's a reason he's only done a few of those. They're great, but that Terry Pratchett story, The Dragon and Fear, is, I think, an incredibly fitting epitaph for today. And it's not quite, so the best comedy makes you think, makes you not go ha-ha anymore. You're like, oh shit, this is real. That to me is Terry Pratchett's book.
Right.
That's my opinion. I mean, we all have our takes there. Don't get me wrong. Like, there are better stories, but that one sits with me for some reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So which one's yours? What's your favorite Terry Pratchett?
It's hard for me to say which one specifically. For me, I was always drawn to the Death stories.
Death was great.
And for not just his storytelling reasons, but also for personal reasons, because I grew up in a family where, as a child, I had to deal with a lot of death. My father died when I was 3. Lost all my grandparents by the time I was 13. My cat died. Uncle died when I was 16. Like, I had to deal with a lot of grief growing up. And so when I see a depiction of death, and death is not scary, but just its own thing. You know, it's just there doing its thing because that's what it does. You know, I find that incredibly comforting for some reason. It's like, I don't think death is something to be scared of. It's something to be understood and respected. So I've always really valued, like, even with the Sandman and death and the Sandman, like, these depictions of death is something other than being scary necessarily. I think they're really valuable, or at least to me, in kind of a therapeutic sense.
So, okay. So, wow. Okay, we're going to go here. Let's go here.
Let's go there.
So, when I was 4 years old, I was 4 or 5 years old, my mom stopped breathing. My mom had asthma when we were growing up in Oshawa, Ontario. So I was told, well, what would happen is my mom stopped breathing. Is go get a neighbor, call an ambulance. Like, there was a protocol. We rehearsed it. One night it happened. And so I remember me and my sister went next door to neighbor, got neighbors. They took care of everything we were taken care of. There was again, we prepared for this. But even so, I still remember to this day the EMTs coming in, putting a mask on her. Like, I still remember the mask, the oxygen thing. I still remember the stretcher. I still remember her being carted. She actually was dead for 2 minutes.
Mm.
The next day, I'm at another friends of the family's house in their swimming pool, and I nearly drowned. Hi.
I'm still here. Sorry.
Yeah. So I nearly drowned.
Wow.
So that was within like 2 days of each other. That was my first experience with death. My second experience with death, my grandfather has since passed. This was about 10 years ago. I was in Arizona. These teeth were gone. These were all fake. These are fake now, but these teeth are all gone, and my teeth were like broken, busted. I was starving, and I was wondering when my next meal was coming in, and I was terrified because I wasn't sure what was going to happen. In this distance, I saw this shadow, and I didn't know how or why I knew it, but the shadow was coming towards me, and I recognized it for what it was. So to answer your question, is death something to be terrified of? Yes, but only because I don't know what you believe in terms of supernatural, God, whatever, but there are things on this earth that you just realize are stronger than you. And you know this not because they're so intimidating and fierce. True strength is measured by gentleness. And death is about as gentle as you'll ever meet. I've been knocked on my ass by God, and I felt the same kind of thing. It's not that it feels strong. It's gentle. It's not what people. Strength is true. Gentleness is true strength. I don't care what anyone tells you. That the gentler someone is, the stronger they are. Right. It's never the other way around, right? So you're in that, and you know it, and that's terrifying. There's nothing you can do. But in that particular moment, in that point in my life, there was a moment. I could have crossed that threshold, made the decision to cross that threshold, and there was no judgment. Right. It was just, if you make this decision, you make this decision.
Right.
But you'd miss out. And I had this vision of, again, I don't know how it's going to work out now with the way the world's gone, but it still could happen. It's still, anything is possible. This time, no matter how dark it might go, will not last. I'm sitting in this looking mostly like myself here, except maybe I don't have the goatee, maybe my hair is a little shorter, maybe a little grayer, and I had this vision of myself in a lineup of people buying my book. And so it was just one of those cool little it's super cool. Like, I have fans and people, and it sounds like the craziest thing in the world, but that popped up. It's like, you could still do this,
right?
And I had a choice to make. I should walk away now, and it's over. No one's going to hold that against you. But you can also keep going and kind of see where it takes you. And obviously, I'm still here, so I chose to keep it going.
Right.
So again, this thing now, was this all in my head? Entirely possible. Right? And if you think I'm crazy, so be it. I'm crazy, and I'll be really cool with that. But what I learned in that moment was, you're not really, again, that whole you're not in control. Like, you're not in control. But what you can do, the only decision you can make is what you do in this time.
Right.
And no matter whether it's God, death, verse, that is always your choice. And no one's going to judge you the way you think you're going to be judged by what your decisions you're going to make. This I know for sure.
Right.
So, do I fear death? Not in the way a lot of people do, but I damn sure respect it, because I know what that feels like, right? And you don't forget.
Right. I think, it's really, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's what you do with the time that you have. Mm-hmm. And that's not going to last forever. So you appreciate it when you have it, because for me, I had to learn that lesson really young. I better tell my mom that I love her, because I don't know when she'll be gone. you know, and same for anybody else I care about. I need to tell them what I feel because I don't know if I'll ever be able to have that opportunity to tell them again.
Mhm.
So I tell them, you know, and it's funny because I have a lot of people tell me I'm brave. And it's a weird thing to me because to me, it's not bravery, it's necessity. You know, I need to tell people what I feel so that they know that I care about them and they're not alone. Because there's nothing more lonely than people possibly caring and not saying a word.
So, so I'm gonna give you a different compliment. I don't know if that's brave, although it is brave. I do think it is brave. I think it's you are willing to be vulnerable, and that takes a strength. A lot of people never learn how to do it, right? So, and that's part of your maybe therapist training too. Like you're a listener. So because you listen and you see, you open yourself up, and your natural inclination is to be open yourself. That doesn't mean you don't have you tell me everything, right? But
Right.
you're not gonna sugarcoat. If I say something that you really royally disagree with, you're gonna say no, right?
Right.
You're gonna say it. Now, we might
I won't
have.
be an asshole about it, but I'll say it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you'll call me out on it, right?
Right.
Right? You'll call me out on it, right? But at the same time, you're. This is the impression I get. We'd be buddies in person because I get the feeling that you would have no problem having this conversation with me in person,
Yeah.
right? I probably would tell more obnoxious jokes, make you laugh, right? But beyond that, this would be pretty much the same conversation. And the thing about that is, where we're alike is neither of us are afraid to speak our minds, good, bad, or indifferent. Neither of us are. That's what we both have, and you recognize the bravery of being strong, but you also understand the wisdom of it. Because here's the wisdom of it: if you're open and you're honest and you're telling people everything you feel, you give people permission to tell you the same thing, and you're putting yourself in a place, right? Again, they may not believe you. They might think you're full of shit. They might think everything like that. But the one thing they will not be able to say is that you're lying to them. You're telling them exactly what you believe, what you feel, what you say. And there's a credibility in that will give others permission to do the same thing. Like I said, that conversation I just had, like I mentioned at the very beginning of the show, one of my best friends out of the blue goes, "You just love stirring up the fucking pile, don't you?" And then we had a back and forth prior to this conversation starting. That's why I was so late in fucking getting a hold of you, because it was like we were going at it straight to the very wire. And but because I'm so open, he felt he could be open to tell me his opinion. And we had a good back and forth. We don't really agree. That's cool. Right? But we have the trust in each other to have that back and forth. And that's important.
Right. It's funny because I tell people that a lot. Like, if I'm not willing to open myself up, then I'm not helping other people know that they have permission to open themselves up too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I remember one time I went to see a movie, and the movie started and the sound was off. People were just sitting there. And they're like, "Oh, well, the movie's the sound is off. This is bad. You know what are they doing wrong?" Sitting around talking about the sound being off. In the meantime, I get up, go out, tell them that the sound is off, and it gets fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Because I knew that if I didn't step up, if I wasn't the one to make it happen, then it would never happen. You know, and everybody would be sitting there watching a movie for like half an hour with no sound. But I was able to get the sound started in like 2 minutes because I just got up and I did it. And I was, I didn't go all Karen about it. Like, I want my money back. I'm like, hey, look, dude, the sound's not working in there. Can you fix it?
They're like, oh, really? Thanks for letting us know. That's to save us some time.
Right. And it probably could have helped them with other movies that they're playing because, it could have been a problem that just continued happening if somebody didn't stand up and say something. So there's something really important about, I'm not the kind of leader in which I tell people what to do. I'm the kind of leader that knows I need to set an example and I need to give other people permission to show me what they're good at and to show me themselves and to show me their value. I give people permission. And that, I think, it's a kind of a quiet way to lead, but it accomplishes a lot and a lot more than most people are aware of.
Oh yeah, no, if you're in a place where people can position, again, people need the right to be assholes. People need the right to make mistakes. People need the right to be wrong. You give them that, they actually will become over time more trustworthy than if not, because you'll know exactly where they stand. It's simple, right? It's such a simple concept, but like I said, it's amazing how much people forget that. So,
yeah,
we could go another hour.
Absolutely.
Easy.
Fortunately, my boss is really very encouraging of my book being published, and I told her I had this tonight, and we were able to get somebody else to come in tomorrow morning, so I don't have to. So I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna make sure I sleep tonight after this.
Yeah, no, totally. No, I no. This was. I never know how long these go. I try to go about an hour, but after that, it's like a bonus, and it's just like, nope. She's a pretty cool woman, and I think we could do this for a very long time. With that all said, I do get the feeling that we both have other things we should be doing. Everybody, yeah, and but I will say this: I really enjoyed this chat. You are welcome to come back anytime you like, though. Whenever you want to promote something, right? Just give me a holler, and then we can talk. And we'll probably next time find out something we'll disagree about, and we'll see how well we handle disagreeing with each other. But no, this is pretty freaking cool. I enjoyed this conversation, and thank you very much for having it with me.
I really enjoyed it too. I love conversation. I live for conversations like this, honestly.
Yeah. It's nice when no one gives a shit, and we're just going to shoot the breeze, and whatever comes up, comes up. That's how I interview. I
mean, even if we were just having a philosophical discussion on the best way to Papa Zit, at least it was philosophical, I mean,
I haven't done that on this show. I honestly have not done that on this show. I've talked about glitter a few times. I've talked about stoned flies. I've talked about ice cream. I've talked about Full Metal Alchemist, obviously. I've talked about the serious stuff like PTSD, right?
Oh, I could have a field day with that.
Oh yeah, no. I actually had a guest literally come out on my show about having PTSD because he'd been a cop, a fireman, and a nurse for a whole career. And
how do you not have PTSD?
Well, no, you just the thing is, it's that moment of realization, right? You just realize like your tank is full. He hit that moment, and when he hit that moment, like he held it in, and something on my show, he just starts talking about it. Like it wasn't planned. I had no idea what we were going to talk about. It's like, oh wow, and I felt really honored actually, because again, you don't have to share that on my show. You could have done that to anybody, but you chose to do it with me, right? I honestly feel very honored about that. But
I was just thinking that. I mean, to have somebody open up to you like that, it's an honor. It's the kind of thing where when somebody has that kind of trust in you, like there's something really special going on.
Mm-hmm. I just shut up and let Barry let him talk because he needed it. Number one, number two, we were in Vancouver, and we were at a bar, and and like doing what I normally do here, like do this, except my recorder was like this piece of crap, and we were just talking, and the next thing I know, it's like whoa,
Right.
right, and again, that's the best thing about the show is it can open up forever. And I still feel we definitely have a lot more we can say, but we both have to. I have to go. I really do, or else I wouldn't. So tell you what, this is what we'll do for now. You'll come back later. Maybe before I hit episode 700, we'll have you come back when you're ready for another book or something like that. Right? But in the meantime, you got books. You got to introduce yourself, let people know where to find you, and I'll call it a show.
So I have my book, The Pizza Pyre. It's coming out on October 1st. It is a horror comedy about a pizza delivery boy who gets turned into a vampire without his knowledge.
Wait. Okay.
Yes. So he makes a delivery to this mysterious mansion, and his memory is wiped of the night. He wakes up in his car the next morning. He has no idea what happened. All he knows is the next day he tries to eat a piece of pizza and it tastes like nothing.
Oh.
And so the whole book is about him trying to figure out what the hell is going on. All these like new symptoms keep popping up. And, eventually he starts to figure it out. But in the meantime, he has all these weird things that happen to him. And it's funny. It definitely has humor, but I also wanted to make, I went back to, if we go back to what I said earlier about my characters, and, I want them to be characters who grow and who have to face themselves. And he has to learn to face himself and his beliefs about what he thinks life is supposed to be, and maybe figure out a different way to be, because life isn't going to be how he thinks it's going to be.
No, it won't.
Yeah, so that's kind of the underlying more serious kind of thing beneath it, and then on top of it, it's just having fun with all kinds of wacky characters.
Yes.
So, I have a steampunk vampire police officer. So,
Sure. Why not? Why not?
Yeah, why not? So, it's pretty wacky, and hopefully, I've had people tell me that the ending makes them cry, and if I can make you laugh and cry, then I've accomplished what I've set out to do.
You emotionally wreck everybody around you.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Crushing people. Go buy this book. So where can people find you? Like website, social, like what?
You can find me at my Facebook page. It's Charleigh Brennan Author. I've also been trying to work on experimenting with Twitch streams. I just the last couple of weekends I've been playing video games and talking about writing, and I don't get very far in the video games that I play because I'm talking a lot, and I try to interact with people in the chat as much as possible.
It's an art form. It takes time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, streaming is a journey. I do interviews here primarily, but I mean I have done it a couple times. So for me, it's Tales games. I love me the Tales games. So when I do, because the skits are awesome. I love it's also it's my two like go-tos in video gaming, writing and RPGs in the same game, and then on top of that, I get obnoxious skits when I win with my party.
Right.
I'm just in. So that I'm a simple man to please. So there's Facebook. Do you have like a webpage?
No, I just have the Facebook page right now.
Okay, so there's Facebook. Do you have like other cool social media I should know about? If the answer is no, it's okay. I'm not going to hold it
really.
against.
Yeah, it's just the Facebook, just Twitch, and Twitch is, just look up Charleigh Brennan. I have that under my name. I do have a Patreon, actually.
Okay, so hold on. So let's do this in order here, because I am. Did I get? Is it AN or ON? For Brennan.
Patreon, Patreon.
No. Twitch.tv, Charleigh. I got Charleigh down, but Brennan, is it?
Brennan.
Okay, cool. Done. I want to make sure you see the comments here. I want to make sure they actually, so people can find
Right.
you. No, Patreon. Okay, so Patreon, I know how to spell. I know how to spell that because
Okay.
I'm special and stuff. I can figure that out.
Okay.
Yeah, patreon.com/
Fairy godmother in disguise.
Okay, there's a story there. We'll have to wait for another episode to tell that story.
Yes. Well, that gets into me with folklore, and I love folklore. So
that's that. So when you come back, we'll do that episode because that
absolutely.
That feels like another long conversation, and you can educate me in fairy folklore because, as is, ladies and gentlemen, this was why I do shows like this. I love this. So, Charleigh, thank you very much for coming on.
Yes, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this.
So for anyone watching, listening, here's my Twitch button. Hit the like, follow button on Twitch, twitch.tv/JustJoshingPodcast. My YouTube channel is Joshua Cantorosco. Like, follow, enable notifications. My book, Alice Zero, is nominated for the Elgin Award. It's Alice in Wonderland is Greek mythology. Alice is Pandora. Sequel, Alice 1, is tentatively scheduled for November 1st. However, I may be relocating, so I might push it back just 1 month. But don't worry, it's pretty much done. So it'll be out when I'm ready to do it. To the rest, everybody, stay inspired, keep shining in the dark, stay out of trouble or don't get caught. And remember what I said about life's rules. Try not to do anything too criminal. And I'll see you guys tomorrow night. And have yourselves a great night, everybody. All right?
Thanks.